Welcome to the Jehovih Chronicles with your host, Cosmon Cal.
That's right. It's your hostess with the mostest, holding that fire like a roach clip. Your noggin, your nerve fresh off of that curved jelly, jamming preserve. Hey, Cosmon, right back up in this thing, y'all. Hey, look, dig this. I'm not even going to be long. This shouldn't take but a minute. I just wanted to show y'all something, right? I'm looking in this book by Jack D. Forbes called, listen, The American Discovery of Europe. That's right. Americans discovered Europe before Europeans ever came to the Americas. Let that sink in, right? And I'm reading the book, and it come to your boy Columbus. You know, Hawaspi got a lot of info on Columbus. You dig what I'm saying? So, it started getting into the facts of what was happening. That two people, right? Two people were in a boat wreck, right? Right. And they came from the Americas. They were American Indians, and they were in big hollowed out canoes. You dig what I'm talking about? And they talking about meeting these people, and they thought that they was from a place called Catayo. Catayo, right, is what we would right here, what we would modernly know as China. Right. But I wanted that ain't what I wanted to hit on. You dig what I'm talking about per se, but I wanted to show how Owaspy information ties things together that you wouldn't think, are actually tied together until you look at history. You dig what I'm talking about from both sides, and then apply what's being told in the book of Earth, Sky, and Spirit. Watch this, right? Because I'd never seen this. Now, for the people who know, well, you know what? I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to just read it, right? This is 1472, right? 20 to 22 years prior to Columbus coming to America. American Indians had sailed to a place called Galway, Ireland. Right? And your boy seen them roughly about 1477. So that means that the Indians was still there. They got there in 1470. Right? Indians that got there in 1470. Let's go back up so we can set the scene real quick. Right? They talking about right here. Another translator where it says Columbus wrote in the margins of Piccolomini's Historia Rerum the following incredibly significant comment. It's Latin, it's homines de Catayo versus Oriens verunt nos vididimus multa notablia. Well, anyways, what it means is all of Columbus's notes in Piccolomini's Historia were written in a very late Latin with terms that are not always clear. But the first part of the preceding notes reads unmistakably, what? People from Catayo came towards the east. Now we know that the Atlantic gyre goes eastward from America towards Europe. right? You can't do that in the South, but you can do it in the North. Mind you, y'all also need to know that not only did large ships that were being made in America have sails on them, but even the smaller canoes had sails on them, right? So even if it took forever, there was a way to ride the current if you're going in a certain direction. Huh? Ride the wind and the current. Now, people from Catayo came towards the east, right? If Catayo is China, right? That would have meant they came from the west. They would have been coming west, came towards the west. But no, they came from the Americas, so they're coming from the east. We saw many notable things, specifically in Galway, Ireland, a man and a wife. This is what Columbus wrote. The note then goes on to use late Latin terms that are presented in almost shorthand matter and that have been interpreted variously. One author translates that two persons hung on two wrecks, a man and a woman, a superb creature, right? Where is this at? Okay. Now, watch this. Sometime during the 1470s, a group of quote unquote Native Americans beat and dodged the hijack. You dig what I'm talking about? But we're gonna use this term Native American as just people being born in America, right? Anybody can be a native at that point, but we're gonna use this term as the Aboriginals, right? Because we know nobody else is in America at this time except Americans. So sometime during the 1470s, listen, when did they come to America? 1492. So sometime during the 1470s, a group of Native Americans followed the Gulf Stream from the Americas to Ireland. We don't know if they were from the Caribbean region or from North America. We don't know if their journey was intentional or if they were driven eastward by a storm. What we do know is that two or more Americans, at least a man and a woman, reached Galway Bay, Ireland, and were there seen by Christopher Colombo, aka Columbus, long prior to his famous voyage. Now I want to show you all this. Where is Galway? Let me show y'all how far Galway is. So they don't know if the people come from the Caribbean down here, right? Or if they come from the East Coast, North America. But what they do know is, or Canada, because it came from Canada also, still in the Americas. Wasn't no Canada at this time, so this would have all been America. Or the United States. What doesn't even know United States at this time, but either way, right? They coming from the continent of America, North America. Now, this Newfoundland, this Quebec, this Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Massachusetts, all up in this area. So we know all these people is Algonquin. So the people who Columbus sees, right, 22 years before he ever made it to the Americas, he's seen them all the way from the Americas. Look, all the way across the Atlantic. And he seen them way down here in Galway Island, Galway Bay. So look at the closest landmass. Iceland. Hmm? We know they came that northern route. There is no other way to get there. You dig what I'm talking about? Using sails and the North American gyre or North Atlantic gyre, right? It's going to take you only in one direction, right? So we see. Now watch this. I want to set some premises, right? He's seen some American Indians in Ireland, right? Prior to his famous voyage in 1492. This momentous event, largely ignored by white historians, marks a beginning of the modern age, since it is precisely because of this experience that Columbus possessed the absolute certainty that he could sail westward to Cathay or Catayo or what? China and India. Mind you, in 1470, right? In 1470, the word India had already been used and had been being used by 1375. So 100 years, the word India in Indian had already been being used and not applied to Americans. Okay? It's a misnomer, right? Now meaning just plainly indigenous, but understand that no European called it an American Indian, before Columbus came in 1492. And yet, people in India were already being called by this term, right? China being called Katayo or Kate. Now, it is true, of course, it is true, of course, that Columbus later learned of many arguments favoring the possibility of being able to sail directly westward from Europe to Asia. He was wrong. But most of the arguments were based on logic. Though, and not upon actual concrete evidence, they were arguments derived from books that Columbus studied, annotated, or from conversations and correspondences. Now, I want to drop down, right? Because now they talk about seeing these people here, and they called them perfect specimens, right? This remark right here, he says, I want to read this. Columbus also read books by as Historia Rerum Ubi Gastrium of, watch this, who wrote the book? Aeneas Silvius Piccolomini. Who is Aeneas Silvius Piccolomini? Pope Pius II. Why is that important? Pope Pius II revises dumb diverses, and gives them and gives them the okay from God to go out conquering and slaying people. Mind you, this had been written by Pope Innocent originally in 1453, 1452, right? Dumb diverses, but you got the doctrines of discovery, you got different parts of it, Novus Novus Terra or New Earth, and through dumb diverses, Christians were able to come to new countries, wipe them out, subjugate the people, or kill them, and in the name of Christianity and Christ, their God, and that God had already forgiven them for murdering people. So this is why you could go do it with glee and no worry, right? No morals. Pope Pius II, that what Indians had been driven by storms to Europe. This was important evidence to him. He wrote in the margins of his copy of Historia Rerum, opposite the reference to Indian vessels reaching Germany with people and merchandise. Se esse maxium discantum non potussent ventir cum fortunam sed approbet esse probe, or means if it was an extremely great distance between India and Germany, the vessels could not pass without ill fortune. But this proves it is near at hand. So we also know he's thinking of great Hindustan, but he knows that the land that they're coming from is close. Why? Because other vessels of these types couldn't have made it through the Indian Ocean, the Arabian Ocean, around the coast of Great Hope, up the Atlantic against the gyre. Remember, the gyre is coming south down. The southern gyre is going south down the western coast of Africa and then curving out into the Pacific and pushing it up and north towards Brazil, right? In a clockwise motion. I mean, in a counterclockwise motion, excuse me. Right? They will be going from Africa to the Americas counterclockwise, while the American one goes clockwise towards Europe in the north. So he said he knew right there that they couldn't have been that far, right? And that means also that what? American Indians had been coming to Germany, because remember, he's in Ireland talking about another time, but they're talking about other times in this Historia Rerum. I'm going to go get this book, right? Where Indians, right? The term being applied to multiple people, indigenous people from different places, had already came to Germany, but they knew that they was closer than the great land of Hindustan. So they came from America and they knew it. But Columbus, right, is calling that land over there India, when they'll tell you, man, in most ancient books, they've called the great ancient America by many names. You dig what I'm talking about? And the name finally at America that they say come from Vespucci actually comes from Amaraka, the tribe, the people, and the story. You dig what I'm talking about? The Grand Khan. You dig what I'm talking about? Survivor, the Great Deluge. You dig what I'm saying? But they are applying this term to people who are from different points in the world. India. And now look, somebody that came to Germany years before, right? Because he's remarking on what's in a book already written by Pope Pius, right? So this had already happened. So that speaks to greater seaworthy capabilities of the Americans, and that this story is older than what they're saying. And now we got to look back at the East Dutch India Company, because if you're calling these people Indians and they're not actually from the Indian subcontinent, well, where are they from? We We're finding out that they're most likely Americans. Huh? Now, this remark shows that Columbus was carefully studying Aeneas's Historia as part of his examination of the feasibility of sailing westward to Asia. It also proves that Columbus was quite interested in the evidence that Indians could sail to the coast of Europe. But what a difference between reading of that in a book and actually seeing Indians in the flesh with one's own eyes. Columbus wrote that in the Nations of Piccolomini's Historia, the following incredibly significant comment, right? I'm going to just drop down. He says, all of Columbus' notes in Piccolomini's Historiam were written in a very late Latin with terms that are not always clear. But the first part of the preceding notes read unmistakably, people from Catayo came towards the east, right? They couldn't have came from the east. They would have been coming from the east if they came from China, not going east. And this is why they landed on the western shores of Europe. Why? Because they were going east. We saw many notable things. People from Catayo came to the east. We saw many notable things, and specifically in Galway, Ireland, a man and a wife. Right? Okay, let's go down here. All right. I want to read this. A fourth translator states that people from Catayo came to the west. This is why I even brought this up. I'll show y'all in a second. Watch this. People from Catayo came to the east, right? Remember, they're in Western Europe. We have seen many notable things, and especially in Galway, Ireland, a man and a woman on some wood dragged by the storm of admirable form, right? Now, I don't know if they talk about the people or the boats. The problem with Columbus's Latin is that dubis lignis means literally with two woods or with two timbers or logs. Lignus does not specifically mean either wood or wreck or boat or wreck, but most logical conclusion is that lignus was used to refer to two dugout logs, to two Native American style paraguas or canoes, as found from South America northward to Virginia and Massachusetts. So the boats that they found was like paraguas or canoes, right? Just like you find in the Americas. Europeans would have lacked a word, right? You don't know what a canoe is, especially because you don't have a word for it. You don't have them, so you don't have a word for it. Europeans would have lacked a word other than log to describe a solid wood boat. Columbus later used the Arab term almadia for such a craft. Incidentally, this use of lignus confirms that the people of Catayo were indeed from America and not flat-faced Finns or Laps, as Morrison suggests. People from the north would not have been going in an easterly direction, and people from the north would not have been going in an easterly direction, and they would have not had longboats. Moreover, they would not have been drifting on logs either, since the currents of that area came from the Americas to Galway, remember? And would have carried any Sami, these people from up there, or Finn drifters, or Finnish drifters, to the who they are calling the flat-faced Finns and the Laps. These are these Samis and Finns. You dig what I'm talking about? Who are Asian, in fact. They're Eurasian. We'll go show you some Sami people Watch this. Hold on. Let me just show you real quick. I'll just jump on it real fast. Semi people. Let me show you the Semi real quick. And they got like a Siberian Asian culture. You dig what I'm talking about? Got their own little everything, language, everything. Let me show you the Sami. Huh? Hold on. Let me show you the Sami. These are Europeans. But look at the epicanthic fold. Huh? You can definitely see the Asian traits. These look like Russians. They're called Lapps. Look at the people. Look at the epicanthic fold. Look at the Asian, Chinese feature. These people like this, like your Sami, like your Finnish, like your Lapps, are your modern day Native Americans. Look. Here go your Cherokee, your Iroquois. Yeah, the fake ones, the 5 civilized tribes. There they go. Look at him. Look at him downstairs. Huh? These are mixed Eurasians. It ain't hard. You dig what I'm talking about? We ain't got to lie on nobody. We ain't got to mix it up, twist it up. But what they saying is them people, if they would have been coming from the east, where they saying they coming from Catayo, they would have been way north trying to go against that current. These people came from America. Watch this. Since the currents of that area came from America to Galway, to Ireland, and would have carried any Sami or Finnish drifters to the far north of Norway, not to Ireland, right? I know they got these people looking white and all that, but what I'm going to tell you, one thing white people don't do, they don't got hairlines, right? They don't got the butter hairlines. And guess what else white folks don't do? They don't grow nappy mohawks. That's what they don't do. Okay. I know how I look, but you got to understand many of these have been reworked later on in time and hidden in museums. Let me see. A complete translation as to the deal with the term ereptus, which might be related to repto or to creep or to crawl, or is the equivalent of the Spanish erestar, to drag, but which more likely is related to ereptum, to get into one's possession. Thus, the complete text of Columbus should read, people from Catayo, towards the east they came. We saw many notable things, especially in Galway, Ireland, a man and wife with 2 dugout logs in their possession of marvelous form. They're not talking about the people, they're talking about the boat. These canoes, right, are whole dugout trees. They're not little things. So they probably came out and went to sea, obviously, with more people than what arrived in Galway. Somebody probably died. This then is perhaps the most exciting piece of the writing ever composed by Columbus, and one of the most significant paragraphs in the history of the Atlantic world. With this, we have solid, indisputable evidence that Columbus and others had seen Native Americans or Aboriginal Americans at Galway on the west coast of Ireland, and that the Americans had arrived from the west going towards the east, which you can't do if you're coming from China. Huh? Watch this. They talking about when he saw him. It says with this we have solid and Columbus probably saw the Americans in 1477, and it seems very likely that this was the event that compelled him a few years later to begin actively preparing for a voyage to the west. Let me drop down because I want to show y'all another thing, right? And as soon as I read it, the bells went off. Watch this. Where am I at? But of course, Columbus referred to the people he saw at Galway. Let me see. Hold on, I gotta blow just a little bit. But of course, Columbus referred to the people he saw at Galway as being from Catayo or Cathay or China. He did not call them Indians. Although from the location of his note, listen, in the Historia Rerum, it is clear that he was thinking of Indians from Hindustan, when he wrote about the people from Catayo, since he had been discussing the earlier arrival of Indians in Germany immediately before. But remember, these people he thinking these is Chinese. He thinking these is Indians from Catayo or Asia, right? But they're actually American Indians. So he obviously wasn't in Galway the whole time in Ireland. Nobody ever stopped to ask, why is Columbus in Ireland? We'll get into that on another thing. But he gets he doing business. Long story short, right? And gets and is documented in that area for over a year at that time. 1476, 77. But it is clear that he was thinking of Indians when he wrote, right? Now we know that them Dravidians, the Jains, and all them, they look like niggas. They don't look like Chinese people. So this is how he could have still been getting them confused, because you got black people in America who look like black people in India. Right? So every time he'd have seen one land in Ireland or land in Germany, he thought it was coming from India, but it looked like the last nigga that came through, and he was actually from America too. So this is where they get that whole point of contention when people be saying Columbus was confused. Obviously the nigga was, but he was confused for a good reason, because he was seeing what he was seeing. He just believed they was coming from the east. They was actually coming from the west. Now, let us proceed to examine what Columbus meant by Catayo, as well as determine when he made a visit to Galway and when he wrote his comments on the margin of Historia Rerum. Now watch this. This is dope. This is crazy. Now, everybody know that, or if you don't know, let me hip you. Let me hip you real quick. Owaspie say that the modern invention of white people, right, in Europe, as we know them today, doesn't start till after the fall of Egypt. Fall of Egypt is 32 BC. But the people who go on to make up that stock that come from the Middle East have been going there since about 80 years before that. So about 110 BC. And so a mix of Shemitic Arabic people, you dig what I'm talking about? And who would have been mixed Macedonian, Egyptian, or Africans, who would have been at this time, they would have been your Ptolemaic dynasty, being pushed out by Rome. It's a Greek Ptolemaic dynasty that is overthrown by the Augustus in 32 BC. Killing off the son of Caesarion. And a new regime came to rule in 32 BC, and it was the fall of Egypt. Well, from that time, right, Owaspie say that those people had moved to Western Europe, and they gave themselves these old names, right? Especially the people of Egypt who would have been in the millions, right? Millions and millions of people, mixed Mediterranean, Egyptian, Macedonians, right? And when I say Egypt, I'm saying African. So you got a mixed African stock going with a Shemitic Negroidal stock, mixing in with Aboriginal Europeans, and yes, they're copper colored too. But remember, this is about epigenetics and the ability for certain things to cut on. And if this breeding had never been made and whole like this before, people with the genetic code to be red or produce pale skin, right? The OCA receptors, you dig what I'm talking about? Everybody, all of them groups produce them, right? But they're not being read. It's not a two-way cross, it's a three-way cross that cuts on those genetics, and now we got pale skinned people as we know them today. Owaspie saying they only about a little over 2,000 years old. Let that sink in. But watch this. This is crazy. Now remember, the Egyptians go and settle Western Europe. How you know, Cosmo? You be just saying stuff. What you be talking about? Now, watch this. What you be talking about, Cosmo? You just be talking sometimes, cuz. No, I don't. Now, watch this. In Arabia, or the Middle East and Africa, in Hellas, Turkey, Greece, and Eastern Central Europe, and Europe, right? All the faithists were scattered, or God's folks were scattered in all directions. Now, from the time of Joshua's death, Joshua died in 110 BC in Jerusalem, where he got stoned to death. These people who call in themselves faithists, people who call in themselves Israelites, people who call in themselves Jews, start migrating west, out of the Middle East, right? It's only two ways you can do it. You can either go on land or you can go on boat. But from 110 BC, or the fall of the Hasmonean dynasty, right, and the death of Joshua, they began to migrate mostly to the west. And look, these people called themselves Israelites and Jews, right? Watch this. Now, where are they? They're in Europe, right? They're in Europe, and they go, look, Greece, Turkey, Europe, right? They were scattered in all directions. Now, from 110 BC, they start mostly migrating west, and they call themselves Israelites. And nevertheless, watch this, many of the Israelites and Jews, these so-called Jews and Israelites, just like these people who call themselves Jews today, we know they ain't. Or these people who call themselves Israelites today, we know they ain't. But nevertheless, they call themselves that, right? They were and are apostates, in fact. How do you prove that they are apostate Israelites? They eat meat. And at the time, when Jaja told you don't, they was marrying with the other peoples. This is how you get your Jews. This is how you start the Hebrew. Right? So Israelites and Jews are bloodline, are part of the bloodline stock that goes on to produce modern pale-skinned Europeans. Deal with it. The man you call Esau and devil and all that, them your sons. But this is the dope part, right? Now, after the fall of the great empire of Egypt, now, at first, I thought this was during the Bronze Age collapse, but it's not. It's the fall of Egypt to Rome in 32 BC. Her people migrated what? Egypt, after it got conquered. And for hundreds of years, the Macedonians under Alexander had created a dynasty called the Ptolemaic dynasty. Hundreds of years they was there. They was there from the 300s, mid 300s, 330s, right? So they was there 300 years. Put it like that. Roughly from 332 BC to 32 BC, right? That's the Ptolemaic dynasty started by Alexander in Egypt, right? But watch this. Hundreds of thousands of these people at the fall of Egypt, right? Hundreds of thousands of them, right? Migrated westward. Hundreds of thousands of them. And they settled in Western Europa, or Western Europe, where these people married with the Aborigines. Now, mind you, the so-called Israelites and Jews have been there 80, 75, 80 plus years already, breeding in with these Aboriginal stocks that's already in Europe, like Cheddar Man. Melanated people with the good hair and the blue eyes. Right? It already been there. Interbreeding with these people. And then here we go. The Egyptians come in too. Settle in Western Europe and marry with them Aborigines too. Look, how do we know? Because their offsprings are called Druids. The Druids are the priestly kings of where? Anybody? They're the priestly kings of Britain and Brittany. Right? Also in England. Purportedly from England. But They are the priestly stock that haunts the Brittany Isles, or Ireland, Scotland, in England, or Wales, what they called it at that time, or England. Ireland, Scotland, and England is Brittany, right? The people of these three mixed stocks who are up there go on to be called Druids. Another stock of these people go on to be called the Picts, the Irish, the Gaels, or the Gaelic and the Celtic. They're German, French, right? But the Celtics, we know the Celtics moved out there to the Scotland and Irish Highlands. Remember, we were just talking about Scotland, right? Ireland, and what? Wales, which gives us our modern day Welsh. What about the Gauls? Anybody know where Gaul is? Anybody heard of a place called France? Is France in Western Europe? Do they call themselves Gaulish? Look it up. What about the Johans? You'll see this, right? The Johans, the Johns, all of which are Egyptian names preserved to this very day. So the name Johns and John's son, listen, or aka Johans, Gaul, the word Welsh, Celtic, Gaelic, Pictish, Druid are 100% Egyptian words. But even, let's go further. Watch this. They kept the name, survived to this day. But look, now when the faithists were moved by the inspiration of God to have no more kings and to flee away from Christian warriors, they came among the above people mentioned. These early English, these early Scottish, the French, the Germans, the Welsh, the Danish, the Celtic, they came among these people, what? These so-called Israelites and Jews, right? They came among the above picture. The apostate faithists married with them. And their offspring were the who? The forefathers of those now called what? French, German, Russian, English, Spanish, Irish, Scottish. So, the Israelites, so-called, or the Jew and the Egyptian, this is why they call them people over there gypsies. This is why they say many of the early gypsies were blue-black. Because really, you got three nigger stocks. You got the Egyptian, who is mixed with Macedonian, but nonetheless a nigger. You dig what I'm talking about? You got the Shemitic. You dig what I'm talking about? Primarily. And stocks. And European stocks. Because remember, you got the Middle Eastern, you got African, right? Let's just put it that way. You got Persian, Middle Eastern, and you got Africans mixing with Paleo or Aboriginal Europeans. So Owaspi is saying what we know as modern white folks only been around about a little over 2,000 years. Because when do you start getting the name French, German, Russian, English? It's not to the 1600s. Why? Because before they was the French, the Romans, the Russians, the English, they had 100% Egyptian names like Gaelic, Celtic, Welsh, Druid, Picts. This is why they always draw the Picts as blue black people. Get it now? Johann, huh? Where you get your word John, huh? We found out many of the Brits enslaved in the Americas were the Negroes, the John's sons. This is where they go, right? Why did Creator even allow this to happen? Why did he allow this to go on? Watch this. Allow the apostates to marry, for from their descendants, huh? Modern day palefaces, huh? I will find a way to raise up disbelievers in this false Christ, and they shall ultimately become believers in the Creator only. But watch this. Remember, them people who are in Ireland, in Scotland, in in Wales and Gaul and all that, in France and all that. Remember, that's an Egyptian. They're Egyptians. Egyptians, you could say Arabs and Europeans. I don't think that they're Arabs. They're still Negroidal, the Israelite stocks. Even though the Jewish stocks would have always been lighter skinned Arab types. Right? Now, watch this. This is a dope part right here. All right. Where was I at? Where was I at? Hold on. I thought I already read it. Okay. Now I want to show y'all where they say he went. Oh, okay, here we go. Now let us now proceed to examine what Columbus meant by Catayo, as well as determine when he made his visit to Galway and when he wrote his comments in the margin of Historia Rerum. It has generally been supposed that Columbus visited Galway in 1477 because he himself states that he sailed northwards to the vicinity of Thule. They think it's Iceland. I'm saying we know it's not. Why? Because Thule is an Egyptian word. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. These is the Egyptians. And mind you, this is before the Ptolemaic dynasty even existed. Huh? This is virtually going on, well, while it started too, but this was going on before the Ptolemaic dynasty existed, circa 350-ish. Hmm? Right? Now watch this. Now, the three false gods called the triune or the Trinity, also known as the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, or aka Christ, Buddha, and Brahma, right? They plan to create 49 false saviors that were supposed to go and die in their name. Real literal people they was gonna raise up like high prophets and then turn on them, kill them to lock their doctrines in blood. Right now, this is what's going on. Just to summarize it real quick. Now, watch this. They got a scheme. They're gonna raise these. Now, accordingly, these three, Thoth, Yima, and Satri, they working for Buddha, or Luaman, Kabbalactus, and Inachisa, also known as Christ, Buddha, and Brahma. Right. Accordingly, these three, who they're under chiefs, Thoth, Yima, and Satri, right, with their 3 millions, were sent down to the earth to cover it over in their own way, to raise up among mortals, listen, the required saviors. Remember, they raising up this is the scheme, right? Now watch this. Now, and watch this. And now this is 200 years after the compiling of the Bible. And in less than 200 years, there were thus given to the earth 49 saviors. Now watch this. Remember where he said he went. And remember, we know that the Egyptians went to the western coast of Europe, settled on the Isles. They founded Ireland, Scotland, and mixed in with the people that was already there, right? Some barbaric ass cave niggas. That's what the European was. They barbaric. They might have been the last of the yaks. Wild men. You dig what I'm talking about? Cave dwellers, ground dwellers, drooks. Right? And these people of a higher light, the Egyptians bred with them. And another people of a higher light bred with them. The Israelites and the Jews. Right? In these lands. Where did he say he went? To the vicinity of Thule or Thule. They think it's Iceland, but where are we talking about? We talking about Galway, Ireland. So watch. Hold on. I was supposed to be showing y'all this. It is generally be supposed that Columbus visited Galway in 1477 because he himself states that he sailed northwards to the vicinity of Thule. They don't know where Thule is. But we're going to show you this is Ireland. How we know it's Ireland and not Iceland? Because Thule is an Egyptian name. 100% of a man who from Egypt. Watch this. They raised up these 49 false saviors, right? Namely, they about to name who the false saviors in history is. If you go back in history, you're going to see these people. They speak about them like gods and demigods and deities and divas and all this shit. But to come to find out that many of these people are, first of all, not as old as they say they are. Because this Thule, right? If you look him up, Thules, in the house of Thules, watch this, is from the Middle Kingdom. Huh? From the Middle Kingdom. So 1500 BC on back. This is when Thule is supposed to exist. But we know he is virtually during the time of Alexander. Between 496 BC. And they said they did it in 200 years. So basically between 440 and 240 BC. 450, 250 BC. That's when it really happened. But they putting him back all the way in the 15, 16, 1700s BC. Because that's how the story be written. But it's actually younger than that. Watch this. We know we didn't hear, if you do your history, these are historical people, characters, and people of myth and lore. But watch this. We know it's Ireland and we know it's Egyptian. Why? Because the word Tules itself is Egyptian. Watch this. Out of these 49 false saviors, namely Rita, Gibor, Gaal, Efrokin, Gargra, and who? Huh? Told you Owaspy is unmatched, nigga. Creator is undefeated. You can't do nothing with the game. We be in whole other spots. This had me turned up. This what? Tules? Y'all was calling Ireland Tules? And the crazy part is there's still Egyptian names on on Ireland. Like Dublin, Mayo, these are 100% Egyptian names. But look who is there. Tules, of the house of Tules, right? And what is it going on to say? And all of these, Esdras, Gatamon, Shofar, Tules of the house of Tules, were all of Egypt and performed miracles such as healing the sick, giving sight to the blind, and hearing to the deaf, and raising spirits of the dead to life, It's not looking good, Jeebus. 49 niggas did this before you? Let's see what happened to these dudes. And raising spirits of dead to life, and they preached the doctrine of who? Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Ain't this Trinity? Well, we know who sent these niggas. Enochisa, Kabbalactus, and Luamong, aka Buddha, Brahma, and Allah, and Buddha, Brahma, and Christ. Ain't they 3 of the 4 heads of the beast religions today? There's only one more head. That's Allah of Islam. There's 4 beast heads spoke about in every religious end time theory, right? They are religions. Now we seeing that they sick this Father, Son, Holy Ghost doctrine on the world to indoctrinate people, bro. They think that God is a man in the sky. You know, the creator is a man in the sky, pointing down. And he his own daddy. Well, if you the Father and the Son, who is the Holy Ghost? We finding out it's Buddha, it's Brahma, it's Allah. It's a nigga. A man, a one-time living, breathing man. Right? Watch this. And they preach, what did all these prophets and all these niggas preach? They from Egypt. So we know Tules is from Egypt. And we know that they went on to settle the place where the Celts, the Druids, and the Picts are. That's Ireland, Scotland, and England, and the Wales, and the Welsh. We know that. This is why we see Egyptian names there today. I'll go and look some more. Hold on, watch this. And the angels, excuse me. And what? Rita Gibor gal. What happened to Tules? The angels that raised them up, worked with him and all that, right? They turned around and they inspired their enemies to put them niggas to death so that their doctrines would be sealed in blood, and this was done. So when they're talking about Columbus going to Iceland, we actually know he went to Ireland, the land of Thule, where the Egyptians went. Watch this. Show y'all some of these Egyptian names in let me show you, because some of these places, all right, hold on, let me, all right. Bring this way up. Right. I want to see if I can. Because they got. Oh, this a good one too, right here. Dang, I didn't see this one. Let me throw this up real quick, right? So we can see where these Celts and all these people was at this time and stuff. Man, watch this. Watch this. Boom. Right? Look, pockets of these niggas too. Crazy. Look at the pics way up here. Huh? Look at the Celts. Carthaginians. Huh? Greeks and all these colonies. Look, these people all the way up here. The same people I just mentioned. Right? So now let's go back and look why we got these Egyptian names. Like Cork. Cork is an Egyptian word. Dublin, which I believe is, I can't prove this yet, but I got some circumstantial evidence that shows that Dublin is and Dub, meaning black, right? Comes as a like a shortening of the word Danube, right? Danube in Dub, Dingle, Dublin. Right here is a place called Mayo. Because these places got ancient names on them sometimes, and you had to Dugort. You dig what I'm talking about? And we see we right in the same place where they say the Picts and the Celts are. You dig what I'm saying? They got the old. I had a picture of how the older lands looked and what their names was, and right where the Druids, the Picts, the Celts, all these people were, the names of the areas were 100% Egyptian. Why? First of all, why are they? Now we know why. You dig what I'm talking about? That they got pyramids in Ireland. Y'all know they got pyramids in Western Europe? I'm going to just show this real quick. And then I'm going to get on up out of here, man. I ain't going to do this all day. Got some things I got to do. Hold on. Let me see. Watch this. I just wanted to show that because it was crazy. I was like, man, listen to you know, and Wasp be making them connections, man. Crazy. You dig what I'm talking about? So now that's giving credence to what's Owaspy saying, even tying it back to Cristobal Colombo. You dig what I'm talking about? This shit crazy, man. I don't know. Okay. Interesting. Watch this. Amazing discoveries in Europe. Yeah. There are pyramids. Watch this. Now, I was just recently they was showing. Hold on, where's the? I want to show the map. Okay. This is a cross section. Let me see if I can. Right. Of the pyramids in Europe. You did what I'm talking about? Denmark, another Egyptian name. You did what I'm talking about? So They was thinking that Iceland was Thule when it's actually Ireland. Right? I just thought that was a dope connection why would you dig what I'm talking about? I just happen to be reading up some stuff on some American Indians. You dig what I'm talking about? It get to leading me all the way back to Egypt, and that you dig what I'm talking about. Listen, this also leads credence to what a lot of other people were saying, was that a lot of the Europeans come from Aboriginal American stock. Right? So if you had been coming over there, y'all start coming over there. If y'all was coming over there in the 1470s, trust me, you was coming over there before. Right? If the proof of that is Aeneas wrote about, Pope Pius wrote about seeing Indians in the early 1400s. So, hey, big shout out to my boy Zay. You dig what I'm talking about, for putting these little graphics together in the back for me. You dig what I'm talking about. You dig what I'm saying. Faith is asked and they receive, man. The homeboy hooked me up with just some some fly graphics just to throw in the back. You dig what I'm saying? Keep a couple hot Dukins flying. You know, I hit a nigga with a couple leaves. They get to talking that crazy. I hit him with get him up out of here. Just like hey, what's up? Hey, what's up, Robert Bear, man? Listen, I'm just calling Robert Bear to the flow. He a hater, man. Ain't nobody else got enough chutzpah, huh? They ain't got enough cojones to call this bum to the floor. I want to debate you on the topic that you make the claim, and you are the only one in the world who makes the claim that JBN, you are the idea that JBN is a Mason comes from this fake wannabe faithist named Robert Bear. Tag him in this, right? I'm saying you're a charlatan. You're a faker. Why? Because you made up a lie about JBN and you can't prove it. I'm calling you to the floor. You say he's a Mason. I'm saying there's no proof. Right? And there's actually proof to show the opposite, that he's not a Mason. Every bit of word that you conjecture about this man, right? You like a snake in the grass. Right? You sit there and tout Owaspy and try to downplay the guy who it was channeled through. What? Well, the thing is, if you think you a better person, why ain't you channeled a better Owaspy? That's proof that you cap. Huh? Trying to downplay this man. Why ain't you got a better Owaspy? He said the wise men imitate the words of their God. Oh, the power of the God. You know how I say, I'm calling you to the flow. I think you a charlatan. I think you just be talking. I'm saying you have absolutely no proof. And then I'm going to go in Owaspy and show you what Owaspy got to say about the lodges. Huh? Regardless to what this man, and see, you think we care about JBN. That's what you think. You think we following this man. We wouldn't follow him, and we definitely ain't gonna follow you. We don't give a damn about JBN. Thank you, big homie, for bringing the book and whatever, nigga, but okay. You dead, nigga. Keep pushing. We got to deal with this information, and you gonna die too, Robert Bear. right? But before you go, I'm going to beat your old feet. Huh? Yeah, you ain't know about that Ahuan class. Huh? Them warrior faithers that'll get on your top about Jaja. We ain't gonna bash everybody. I'ma get you. Nobody but you. We gonna expose it's you that brought about the whole idea that JBN is a Mason. It's you that keeps regurgitating the idea, putting the information forth, and other people just regurgitate your ideas and give it credibility because you call yourself a faithist. I say you a Levitican. I say you a charlatan. I don't think your light is as high as you believe it is. Because I'm saying you ain't got no objective. See, don't worry about it. Just take the debate. Y'all link Robert Bear into this. I'm going bear hunting. I'm going to trap me a bear. Early in the morning. All that conjecture about JBN. If he would have did this, he would have did this. No, nigga. That's not true. If he would have been the guy who was inspired to write Owaspy or translate Owaspy or whatever, you know, he wouldn't have cheated on his wife or he wouldn't have had a child out of wedlock. Nigga, that mean show me this. Show me in Owaspy where having a child out of wedlock, is a sin. As a matter of fact, don't it say in that book that Zarathustra mama wasn't married to her daddy? She didn't even know she was pregnant. Show me where it's a sin with your good talking self. You talk a lot. I punch a lot. See, they don't understand. They think faith is soft. We weak. Nah, cuz, no, we not none of that. We not nothing like you. We not punks. We not pushovers. We not so religiously and spiritually high raised that we ain't no earthly good. Jaja made me in the bent that I am, and I'm going to extend it forever. I'm going to be one of them dudes who come in the way of Osiris and check a whole planet. Then raise them up on science. What? It's a reason I'm like this. And you next. We going to put a faithist neck on the chopping block. Because I'm saying you can't prove your claim. I want to debate you on that claim, Robert Bear. I'm going to come up here and air you out every day for the next month. I'm going to just keep airing you out till you strap on your nuts and come on home. Yeah, I ain't only bad for the Hebrews. I'm bad for these fake faithists too. Guess what, though?
Creator can't coming. Creator can't coming. Turning up the light and watching boys start running. Let me tell you something. We ain't out here doing nothing. I can tell you scared, boy. Niggas stop fronting. It was all in the plan.
Robert Bear.
Creator gang is crazy. Boy, y'all better pay attention.
Robert Bear. See if he come out of hiding over there in Japan, over in Japan. There was another thing I could have showed y'all. I was gonna show y'all too. I ain't even get to it. Right? Watch this. Hold on. Watch this. Huh? Another place that's mentioned in Owaspy. Hold on. Huh? Watch this. Where I'm at. I'm gonna show this real quick. And I'm gone. Huh? Because Owaspy hitting like steel. Hitting like steel. Right? Watch this. Where he at? Where he say he about to go to? He about to go to the remnant of Pan. Our first solid evidence Colombo's investigations occurs in retaliation to his engaging in correspondence with Paolo Dal Palzo Toscanelli. Right? Now, Columbus was able to obtain a what? An introduction to Toscanelli, and the latter sent him a copy of his letter of 1474 to Fernão Martins, the contents of which relate directly to Colombo's later ideas of Catayo and who? Sapango. Sipan. Huh? We know about the great Zapan. Huh? This is his English interpretation or Latin interpretation. Zapan or Japan. Huh? Watch this. But what? Sipango, Japan, is not a feature of any of these notes or these books or these two books. So how you know about it? Even though Di Alili does make a reference to the island of Siampagu. Huh? But we know about Sapan. Y'all see it? Sapango, which is Sapango is Japan or the remnant of Pan. Same thing this means. Sipango. It's all Japan. The remnant of Pan. Right in there. You dig what I'm talking about? And look what they call the two fleets of the ships, right? Survived after the deluge, the great deluge, right? The fleet of two ships were carried to the north and was named Yista, which in the Waga tongue was called what? Zapan, which is the same country that to this day is called what? Japan, signifying relic of the continent of Pan, for it lay to the north where the land was cleaved in two. Huh? Right where Yonaguni is. Y'all gonna catch up one day. But look, Cosmon and part of this thing. Robert Bear. Huh? Y'all breathe in. Let that light in. Because I'm Cosmon and I'm out.
We fight as a single, impenetrable unit. That is the source of our strength.
Robert Bear, come out and play.